Here we are at the intersection of Highway 143 and Joyce Kilmer Road. Yes, we are near, but not exactly in, the Joyce Kilmer Memorial Forest. So that itself will not be the focus of this episode. Here, on this episode of Let's Explore This, we are going to be discussing the site of what could be called a former community once situated not far at all from that memorial forest, at near where Joyce Kilmer and Santitla roads intersect. This here is the intersection where, you could say, Rattler Ford Road begins, but why in the world would a road be called Rattler Ford? Better yet, what even is a Rattler Ford? Well, on this episode, we are going to try and figure that out. It may just be a campsite today in 2022, but clearly, for it to be listed in a gazetteer, it must be more than just a campsite, right? So, this here is a book, Nantahala National Forest, A History. In it, the following paragraph can be found. And it does mention Rattler Ford in regards to where the Dentons once had a small settlement. Yes, Dentons is another small town within the mountains of Graham County. Now, I don't generally do this, but I will in this instance because of it being a bit important. On next week's episode, you are going to learn all about Dentons. I need to tell you that on this episode because during the shooting for that episode, I did run into members of the Denton family. That is important, due to where the cabin shown here, the Denton cabin, was located. A hike around the Joyce Kilmer Loop Trail is also worthy of mention here, though I will not be doing that at this time. That trail, by the way, is in the Joyce Kilmer Memorial Forest itself. The thing is, though, originally, I thought this cabin was in that area. However, I was told it was originally in this area, the area of Rattler Ford. So, on this episode, yes, we are going to be looking for a chimney. Yes, I am not sure of where it is. As usual, I do not have enough time to search far and wide. With that said, prior to the Dentons having arrived in the area, the Cherokee families of Long, Rope Twister, and Wachacha had traded goods along a well-known trading path through this area here, the Santitla area. It is said that Jno Rope Twister, who was successful in cattle growing, had driven his large herds of cattle over and into Tennessee and sell them for gold coins. After the death of Rope Twister, it seems that both Indian and white folk became interested in what happened to Rope Twister's gold. Many thought the old Cherokee had saved a great amount during his successful cattle growing and sales. It appears that the legend of Rope Twister's gold and what happened to it remains one of the unsolved Cherokee mystery stories in all of Graham County. You can read about that mystery of Rope Twister and much more right here on this page. An excerpt from the online edition of this here book, The Graham County Centennial, 1872 to 1972. Furthermore, that trading path, it does have a history in regards to the Joyce Kilmer Memorial Forest. Now, as far as the name of Rattler Ford goes, it appears not to be all too clear as to where it came from. According to a blog post by Dorothea Jackson on a website by the Alicia Patterson Foundation, it talks of the name of Rattler Ford more likely having come down from a Cherokee family that lived in the area more than it did from a snake. And folks, that is really all there is to Rattler Ford. However, we are not done just yet. Though not directly in Rattler Ford, we are now here at the intersection of Joyce Kilmer and Big Santitla roads. This intersection can be found just after turning off Highway 143 onto Joyce Kilmer Road. What we need to do now is travel a bit of a ways down Big Santitla Road to about where the circle is drawn here on this map. That brings us to this area, and in this area lies the Stewart cabin. Yes, that cabin you see right there. No, this cabin is not the Denton's cabin. In fact, it is another historic cabin, but one that today is still standing. It was built by James Archibald Stewart and his wife Catherine Ash Stewart. And this cabin, it holds wood shingles. Moving down to the rear of the cabin, there is this interesting rectangular hinged window that appears to open outward. And the logs, they are dovetailed. I think half dovetailed, that is. And on this side, there is one of those rectangular wooden windows, with this one appearing to open outward on either side. Actually, the rear window does sort of have that set up as well. Here we have a wood shingled outbuilding. Not sure of what its use might have been for. It appears as if it was built from smaller trees. Here is the interior, and that looks too deep to act as a kind of feeding trough, I think. I wonder if this was like a container for water? So, was this like a pump house? Not sure. If it was, it does kind of appear small. Let's move to the other side of the cabin where we have the chimney, and as we move down, it appears almost double-shouldered, like kind of the bottom part extends only slightly outward, but only from the front, built likely of native stone. And here we have the gable veering downward to help enclose the shed roof porch. It holds rafter tails and is supported by log posts with plank flooring supported on stone piers. Okay, folks, so I know what you have been waiting for. The interior, right? Firstly, though, on this facade, here we have one of those smaller wooden windows again. Okay, so I guess let's now check out the entrance. It holds a screen door, likely a later contraption, but the question does remain, can we even get inside? Well, the screen door does open, but the main door, yeah, it is locked. So, I guess no interior shots for you. Yes, it is property of the United States, one whose interior does not seem to be accessible. So, why don't we now take a look at the massive yardage? The property is bordered by a snake rail fence, and as you can see, there is enough yardage that it could have once acted as a farm. In fact, at the time this cabin was built in such a remote region as this, a farm likely did stand nearby. According to Find a Grave, James died in 1909. Therefore, this cabin, said to be built by him, must have been built prior to 1909. They lived on Big Santitla and were neighbors of Albertine and John Denton. There is information on this cabin to be found in the Denton Family Museum, this building shown here, and to be discussed on the next episode. Okay, folks, before we put Rattler Ford to rest, let me bring you back to this cabin and the chimney that is supposed to remain. Well, I have not been able to find that chimney around here. Supposedly it is here in this area. I am not certain if it requires much of a hike. It might, and that's just the kind of time I really don't have. So, with that said, apparently it does still exist here today, or so I've been told. I just don't know where it might be. But you can always come up here on your own time. Then you, too, can explore the area and see if you can find out, just like you would try to explore in order to find that old Cherokee gold. Maybe someplace over here, just maybe, you might find some nuggets of gold. Then, maybe, just maybe, you'll be rich someday. You just never know. But as for me, yes, I do need to move on so that I can give you that Denton's episode.